Alright, so you guys know that I started making these oat bars, for lack of a better word. They call them baked oatmeal, but that's dumb. It's basically a brownie, doesn't have flour in it, has oats ground up instead. So I've been playing with it a bit, and I'm going to try something new today, which potentially could be really good, or it could not turn out at all. So I'm going to let you follow along with me. So again, this basic recipe calls for 2 cups of basically oats made into flour, a cup of milk of whatever kind you want, a 1/4 cup of cocoa powder, 2 to 3 ripe bananas depending on size. I have giant bananas this time rather than the small ones I normally get, so I might just use 1. An egg. It originally called for 2. 1 is plenty. It doesn't need 2. And then it was calling for maple syrup, which I discovered it didn't call for nearly enough sweetener last time, so I bumped that up to 1/3 cup. A little bit of vanilla, a little bit of baking soda, a little bit of salt. I just use self-rising flour, and I do away with all the rest of that. So what I'm going to do today is basically the same recipe, except for I've shredded up a zucchini. 1 whole zucchini. I have another one so you can see about how big it was. I haven't weighed it. I've got a scale. I could do that if you really wanted me to. I could, but I don't think it's necessary. I have these giant bananas, so I'm going to put this whole shredded zucchini in there, which I've had on a dishcloth to drain some of the moisture out. And another thing this recipe didn't call for that I've been adding in is some oil, because it's dry, man. It needs oil. So I've just been kind of guessing at it. I like to just glug some oil in things and call it done. So I've just been, it's probably a 1/4 to 1/3 cup of oil, any type. I put olive oil in everything. It would be really good with coconut oil. I just don't have any coconut oil. So immediately what I've done here is I've added a whole extra vegetable and some oil, which is something that it didn't call for. And then to this, I'm just going to add a banana, which I've got to blitz up real quick. So alright, so I got a banana. It calls for a cup of milk. I don't have any milk, so what I do have is half and half. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a 1/2 cup of half and half, and then a 1/2 cup of water. And let me tell you, you'll never know it's not milk, just if you drink it that way. So there's a cup of fluids. It doesn't matter what kind. It could be anything. You could use milk. You could use almond milk. You can use oat milk. You can use buttermilk. You could use absolutely anything you want. It doesn't matter. Alright, so one of the things that I thought was dumb about this recipe is it calls for maple syrup as the sweetener. And maple syrup's great stuff, but it costs a fortune. So what I'm going to do is put my 1/3 cup that I used last time in here. But one of the things that I didn't like about the way it turned out before was I'm just going to use the maple syrup to blend up the bananas, because it blends better if it has some liquid in with it. I'm also cooking other things at the same time that aren't done. It wasn't chocolatey enough, so I'm going to add more cocoa, and because I'm going to add more cocoa, it's going to need more sweetener. So I'm just going to throw some actual sugar in here because it's dumb. there's our banana, and it calls for a 1/4 cup of cocoa powder, which I've got to find where I put. There it is. Alright, so it calls for a 1/4 cup, and I didn't think that was chocolatey enough, so I'm going to put twice that in there. So that's 2/4 cup, that's a 1/2 cup of cocoa powder. Now when you use cocoa powder, you need twice as much sugar or sweetener as you do cocoa powder. So I put 1/2 cup. I put a 1/2 cup of cocoa in there. So I need a whole cup of sugar. I've got a 1/3 cup of maple sugar in here. So if I use 2/3 cup of sugar, that'll be a whole cup of sweetener. So this is a great way to get rid of that extra sugar in the bottom of a bag that's hard to get rid of. You have to open a new bag. You might notice that I keep everything in Ziploc baggies. It's not because I'm a germaphobe, it's because I got some stuff from the food shelf that had bugs in it a couple of years ago. And ever since then, I had been struggling to get rid of the bugs, which my doctor assured me were not dangerous, but I still don't want to eat bugs. So everything goes, all the dry goods go in bags now. Alright, so that's about, alright, that's 2/3 cup. Probably still won't be sweet enough, but it is supposed to be remotely healthy. It's totally not, but it's supposed to be. You're supposed to be able to lie to yourself and tell yourself that this is healthy because, you know, it has the maple syrup instead of sugar, and, you know, sugar isn't sugar or anything. It's just dumb, but, alright, so we've got the cocoa powder, the banana, a zucchini shredded up. We've got a cup of liquid. We're still missing the egg, the vanilla, the flour, which will be oatmeal, and then leavening, because using oatmeal for this, so it actually does need some leavener, because normally I just use all-purpose flour and don't deal with that. But alright, so here's our oats, and get the rest of our maple syrup out of here. And we're gonna blend. It needs a teaspoon of vanilla. No one measures that. Alright, and we need some leavening. So I've got some baking soda here. And then it will need a bit of salt since I'm not using the all-purpose flour that I normally use when I bake things. So 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Something like that. Alright, so now the only thing that we're missing is the egg and the oats. So we're going to get an egg. There's our egg. It's a small egg. Just blend that in there real quick. It'll be fine. Alright. I should have just put it in the blender when I did the rest of it. That's okay. Alright, so now 2 cups of oats. Some sort of leavener, which baking soda. Just a little. Sure, that'll be fine. Oh my god, if it turns out to be a brownie instead of a cake, the tragedy. Alright, 2 cups of oats. These have to be pulverized. Mush. Watch this trick. Doesn't fix that the blade is still wet. It's mostly dry. It'll be alright. Alright, loud noise. Gotta check my quiche. Almost done. 1 cup. Alright. There's all the ingredients it calls for, plus some. I still don't think it'll be sweet enough, but. And then I've still got a few chocolate chips left. I think that makes it much better. So we'll just throw whatever's left of the chocolate chips in there. It's probably a 1/3 cup. I don't think that'll be enough of those either. Alright, so then we'll just mix this together. Normally I would do it with a spatula, but I've already got a fork in here from whisking the eggs. So. A fork it is. Alright, so blended oats, milk of any kind you want, cocoa powder, twice as much as it calls for, sugar of some type, twice as much as cocoa powder as you put in there. Doesn't matter what kind of sugar you use, although I think honey would be pretty terrible in this. An egg, a mashed banana, a shredded zucchini, some vanilla, a leavening agent, a little bit of salt. Alright. Then a greased 9 to 10 inch-ish. Wow, that's harder to say than I thought. How big is this dish anyway? I don't know, I've never measured it. This is a 9.5 square, and it works perfectly. I haven't greased it yet, so you get to watch that disgusting process. Alright, it's greased. My mini quiches have been in the oven at 350 degrees. That will also work for this, so I'll just pull those out, put this in. And we'll see how it works with a zucchini in it. And twice as much chocolate as it calls for. I made it once without taking a video. Actually, I've made it twice without taking a video. But one time I made it and I put in 3 bananas. And the texture was just, it was a little too wet. Even though it was fully done, it was just a little challenging texturally. So I learned that you can put too much banana in it, which I wasn't sure was possible, but you can. So less banana, but added a zucchini, and we'll see how it goes. You're gonna get to see my quiches come out because I'm going to get this done before I turn off the video. Alright, mini quiches just out of the oven. I can tell you how to make those too if you want. It's super easy. Just let me know if you want to know what I've done there. Alright, cake in, quiches out. We're moving on to having some food now. These are ready. They look delicious, don't they?